This is to make humanity understand that a greater purity, a greater force, a greater knowledge, and a greater ananda can be acquired through struggle and pain, suffering and difficulty, more than through an easy and smooth life. It is not the cause of difficulties, but it is the result. That is to say, it would be a mistake to believe that these difficulties have been created in order to bring this marvelous result. It is not so. But according to the action of the grace, the difficulties having occurred, the grace can change them into means of greater progress. That is the attitude to be taken towards life as it is, and it will allow the grace to give its maximum of help with the maximum result. That is why we can always say, from the worst, the best will arise. Not that we must purposely bring or attract the worst, but when we are faced by it, we must keep this fact and go on without hesitation, without fear, never losing an absolute, quiet, and a sure faith. A dark foreknowledge separated her from all of whom she was the star and stay, too great to impart the peril and the pain. In her torn depths, she kept the grief to come. As one who, watching over men left blind, takes up the load of an unwitting race, harboring a foe whom with her heart she must feed. Unknown her act, unknown the doom she faced, unhelped, she must foresee and dread and dare. The long foreknown and fatal morn was here, bringing a noon that seemed like every noon. For nature walks upon her mighty way, unheeding when she breaks a soul, a life. Leaving her slain behind, she travels on. Man only marks, and God's all-seeing eyes. Mother. In the story, this is because Savitri knows 1 year in advance what will be the fate of her companion. But, like the rest of the story, it is a symbol. To know in advance what will be the circumstances of life, one ought to have the strength of a God. It is a supreme grace for man that the future is not revealed to him, because most men would not have the courage to live their life if they knew what it would be. The all-embracing divine consciousness is needed to have the knowledge and live in the present condition of the world, and at the same time do what one is expected to do and act according to the divine's will. When the consciousness of man becomes wide, strong, and pure enough to know, or rather to share the knowledge of the divine, then this knowledge comes along with the consciousness. A supreme wisdom governs all the world and each and every detail of this world. It is only through identification with the supreme consciousness that man acquires at once the power to know and the power to bear and the power to do. Even in this moment of her soul's despair, in its grim rendezvous with death and fear, no cry broke from her lips, no call for aid. She told the secret of her woe to none. Calm was her face, and courage kept her mute. Yet only her outward self suffered and strove. Even her humanity was half divine. Her spirit opened to the spirit in all. Her nature felt all nature as its own. Apart, living within, all lives she bore. Aloof, she carried in herself the world. Her dread was one with the great cosmic dread. Her strength was founded on the cosmic mights. The universal mother's love was hers. Against the evil at life's afflicted roots, her own calamity its private sign, of her pangs she made a mystic, poignant sword. A solitary mind, a worldwide heart, to the lone immortal's unshared work she rose. This is the correct and exact description of the condition of those who are united with the divine. Once this is realized fully, the reactions of the human being exist no more. It is the same nature working in all. It is the same divine conscious in all. There is no more the sense of ego, and the suffering, if there is any, is not personal suffering, but some universal feeling, some universal contradiction of the divine consciousness. All that happens, happens in the divine consciousness, and no selfish or egoistic movement can exist. There are all the movements that belong to the past and have to go. And it is because they have to go that they belong to the past. All the divine movements that are luminous and progressive and creative of unity and beauty belong to the future. And they have to live because they belong to the future. There is, in the world, a constant fading of all that belongs to the past, and the constant growth of that which belongs to the future. When we are conscious with the divine consciousness, there is no attachment for what belongs to the past, and there is full collaboration with what belongs to the future. Personal motives exist no more. At first, life grieved not in her burdened breast. On the lap of earth's original somnolence, inert, released into forgetfulness, prone it reposed, unconscious on mind's verge, obtuse and tranquil like the stone and star. In a deep cleft of silence, twixt two realms, she lay remote from grief, unsawn by care, nothing recalling of the sorrow here. Then a slow, faint remembrance, shadow-like, moved, and sighing, she laid her hand upon her bosom and recognized the close and lingering ache, deep, quiet, old, made natural to its place, but knew not why it was there, nor whence it came. Mother, this is the effect of the consciousness when it descends into the material world. There is so much of inertia in this world that the consciousness gets faint, remote, uncertain. It is a general happening. All the beings from above that take birth in this world have the same experience. It takes a long time to remember what they are, from where they came, and to get back their conscious movement and conscious knowing. And even when they remember, there is a kind of dulling of the knowledge. It is no more so clear, so vivid, so intense. Everything gets dulled. But it is just by bringing more and more often something of the higher realms of consciousness so as to wake up a response in matter that little by little its very nature will change. And instead of being dull and unconscious, it will wake up to a conscious response. This is just the work that is going on, and will go on until this matter is transformed and capable of manifesting the supreme consciousness from which it comes. The power that kindles mind was still withdrawn. Heavy, unwilling were life's servitors, like workers with no wages of delight. Sullen, the torch of sense refused to burn. The unassisted brain found not its past. Only a vague earth nature held the frame. But now she stirred. Her life shared the cosmic load. At the summons of her body's voiceless call, her strong, far-winging spirit traveled back to the yoke of ignorance and fate, back to the labor and stress of mortal days, lighting a pathway through strange symbol dreams across the ebbing of the seas of sleep. This is the description of how the consciousness works its way back, bringing back remembrance, waking the faculties, more conscious by night than by day, because the inner being is more active. As the body goes to sleep, the inner being wakes up, and with it comes back the memory of the past. For those who are more developed in the inner being than in the body, those who come down upon earth fully conscious and had their consciousness veiled and dulled by the contact with matter, sleep is often a revelation. Because the body is asleep, inactive, the inner consciousness is more free and in contact with what it knows more directly. So, all those who have come down upon earth, fully developed and fully conscious, at night, when the body rests, remember what they were and what they can do. In fact, they actually continue to do their work at night when their body is immobile. They continue their activity and they do what they came to do upon earth, even before the body knows and can help in the work. Her house of nature felt an unseen sway, illumined swiftly were life's darkened rooms, and memory's casements opened on the hours, and the tired feet of thought approached her doors. All came back to her. Earth and love and doom. The ancient disputants encircled her like giant figures wrestling in the night. The Godheads from the dim, inconscient born awoke to struggle and the pang divine, and in the shadow of her flaming heart, at the somber center of the dire debate, a guardian of the unconsoled abyss, inheriting the long agony of the globe, a stone-still figure of high and godlike pain, stared into space with fixed, regardless eyes that saw grief's timeless depths, but not life's goal. Afflicted by his harsh divinity, bound to his throne, he waited unappeased the daily oblation of her unwept tears. Mother, all earth is under the governing shadow of the vital beings. Even the highest divinity, when coming upon earth, cannot escape the consequence of this shadow governing all the events of the earth. For the life upon earth to become entirely divine, harmonious, happy, painless, these forces and beings of the vital world must be conquered or destroyed, transformed, or they must disappear. That is, return to the nirvana of their origin. All the fierce question of man's hours relived, the sacrifice of suffering and desire earth offers to the immortal ecstasy began again beneath the eternal hand. Awake She endured the moment's serried march and looked on this green, smiling, dangerous world and heard the ignorant cry of living things. Amid the trivial sounds, the unchanging scene, her soul arose, confronting time and fate. Immobile in herself, she gathered force. This was the day when Satyavan must die. It is this terrible story of the creation of earth and man as the means to save the world from suffering and destruction. The death of Satyavan becomes the symbol of the misery of the earth's creation, of its fate, and, through Savitri, of its liberation. She faces the doom in order to give the solution. The creation is plunged in misery, suffering, and death, but it can and will be saved through her intervention.